In a world covered by endless night, in a place where fear and despair thrive, in a time when all hope seems lost, two individuals arise to stand firm, resist the darkness, and light the beacons of hope to humanity. To the free people of the future, the courage of these two will mark them as heroes. To everyone else, they will simply be known as Nobodies.
Hello YouTube! Welcome to Nobodies, the show that no one's going to watch. Got a little Christmas tree here, trying to be festive for the holidays.
Merry
joy and
Christmas.
happiness. And in this season of joy and happiness, we're going to talk about economic Armageddon.
Bad.
So, national debt's at 18 trillion and 20 million as I speak right now.
Trillion.
Yeah, trillion. Guess it's like an arcade game trying to get the high score.
I guess that's what they're shooting for. The high score.
Yeah, but what's the big deal, Dave? I mean, it's just debt. We need debt, and that causes inflation. Everyone knows how bad deflation is.
Okay. Oh my god. Ignorance. No, the problem with having a debt that's $18 trillion is that you're not going to be able to pay it off unless you take it from the taxpayers. At $18 trillion, I mean, you think that the taxpayers, I don't know what that adds up to per person, but I know that we can't afford that. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then, so taxes aren't going to be able to cover it, or you have printing money, which, like you said, is inflation, which still robs the taxpayers, because if you print money, it starts inflating things, which erodes purchasing power for you and me, for everyday citizens, and we still lose.
Yeah, like it or hate it, I know we kind of ranted about consumerism in the Black Friday episode, but our whole economy runs on consumerism. The more inflation goes up, the less purchasing power we have. The less purchasing power we have, the less we have to pump into the economy, because we're paying more for groceries and gas. The more we're paying on our bare minimums. I mean, in order for things to get going, we need to buy luxuries. That's just the way the system works. And if inflation goes up, we have less money to buy stuff. We have less money to buy stuff. We're not buying stuff at businesses. They're not going to be hiring people, and that just causes everything to explode.
Right. I mean, yeah, like you said, it's the system. I mean, I could go on about how, I think deflation is the greatest thing since sliced bread, before sliced bread, actually. And but I think that's out of the scope of what we're talking about today. But you are right. I mean, that's just the way the system is. That's the way it's built. If we aren't spending, it's not moving, and that's a problem. But there's the fatal flaw is that one day your debt's going to be too big, and at this point, $18 trillion, it's not going to get paid off. So the only way they can really pay it off, quote unquote, is to actually print and do QEs and just really. And we're getting robbed because we are already paying an enormous amount of taxes, and on top of that, our dollar is getting
Weaker and
weaker constantly. So it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. And actually, the thing you're talking about is what's so bad. There's a thing I want to talk about. There's a lot of people that say that we owe that debt to ourselves. Like it's not a big deal. Don't worry about it. It's just debt we owe ourselves.
Yeah, this isn't the government borrowing money from the government. This isn't what's going on.
It wouldn't be called a debt if that was the case. It would be called savings or something. I mean, if you borrow money from your checking or your savings and you put it in your checking, I guess you could say you're borrowing money, but really you're just moving.
Reallocating.
Yeah, you're reallocating. So the fact is we owe that money to quite a few entities. Number one being China, Japan, Belgium. Belgium actually holds quite a bit of debt.
Really?
Yeah. So a lot of foreign nations we owe debt, and if we print and print and print and try to inflate away that debt, the incentive that they have to hold that debt goes down. So.
And then also got to consider when people say we're borrowing money from ourselves, that ourselves is a private bank in the United States. That again, that's not technically us. It's a private bank.
I was just going to say that. The Federal Reserve. If you're thinking Federal Reserve, it's not. It's Wells Fargo. It's Bank of America. It's the same thing. It's a private bank who has private investors.
It's federal in name only.
Yeah, it just says federal. I mean, it's like Federal Express, FedEx, It's not federal. It's in the name. So we owe that money to a private bank. That's not debt that we can just wipe out and say, oh yeah, forget about it because it's the government's debt. No, that's private debt that the taxpayers are on the hook for. $18 trillion. Trillion. That's never going to get paid off. And Congress just authorized another trillion in spending just so they could keep the government from shutting down. Which, I don't know, I mean, like the last time we had all those parks and stuff closed down. And it was a big mess.
Honestly, that was a dog and pony show. There were so many different things they could have done to save money. They were just doing that for the press to see, oh my god, look how terrible it is. But no, they had money. They were just not using it to make a point.
Wasn't it? It was like 25% of the government actually shut down, and it was all non-essential stuff like national parks and whatnot. I mean, let's face it. If you're taking an $18 trillion debt, actually I'll phrase it differently. If you want to go to a national park versus solving an $18 trillion debt or something that important, you're a moron. I hate to be mean. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. That's just wrong, okay? I'll take a shutdown national park any day. I mean, I know people work there, jobs and whatnot. I feel for those people, but let's look at it honestly. Those people are going to get paid. All right, they work for the government. The Congress will pass some bill and give them their back pay. Let's solve the problem, Ugh. Terrible. Anyway, what's the exact number?
18 trillion, 20 million, 410, no, sorry,
Trillion?
18 trillion, 20 billion, 410 million, and then the thousands are just rising up right now.
Yeah. Well, I thought you came up with a good point. You said that Medicare and Social Security dwarfed military spending.
Yeah. I'm all for cutting all of spending in general, but let's honestly be serious here where the majority of that money is. Just go to US.clock and you'll see for yourself. It's Social Security and Medicare that's bankrupting us a lot more than military spending.
But what about all those poor people? Those poor people.
Oh boy, I mean...
Yeah, I know. That's a very loaded question.
It's super loaded.
Yeah.
We'll address that, maybe not right now, but we'll address that, trust me. It's not like we're saying, being social Darwinistic here to say poor people must die. No, obviously not. But there are a lot better ways to go around solving these problems than just having the government print more stuff. Because you have to realize, you're shooting yourself in the foot while still giving up the benefit. Because again, how do we pay off the stuff? We pay off by either printing money or increasing taxes. That hurts the economy. So we're economically helping someone by screwing everyone over in the same process. How are you really fixing anything? It doesn't make any sense. There are better ways to go about doing this other than having government spend it because, again, you're shooting everyone in the foot, including the person who is receiving the benefits, by the way, because the economy affects everyone whether or not they are paying taxes.
Yeah, like even, people on pensions and even fixed incomes, when you inflate, it really hits them the hardest.
Because they have to pay more money and they're not getting any more of it.
Nope. You have to sell drugs.
Anyway, well, we'll get to that point eventually. I mean, some states are on that bandwagon, which I'm not against it. If you want to make some tax revenue, why the hell not?
Yeah. It is what it is. I mean, really the point of this video is just to address the fact that we have a problem. And as much as I'd like to offer solutions, I really can't. I mean, I want to...
The solution is just cut spending. That's all it is.
Well, yeah.
Seriously.
But, when I ask you the poor people, oh, what about the poor people? The solutions... Somebody...
You address the solutions on a specific case. So when you say about Social Security, all those people it helps out, how do we solve that? We have an answer to that. But that's different than all the others. Like, well, if we cut this social program, what happens to these people? If we cut this social program, what happens to these people? You have to do my case-by-case analysis, and we'll get to that eventually in our future videos. But for now, I mean, I think the general, conclusion should be simple. 18 trillion is too much, and everyone's going to suffer for it. Why are we still cranking up the spending?
Yeah, it's bad. So, one other thing I wanted to address, talking to kind of debt, same thing with the banks. With the spending bill, in that $1 trillion spending bill was a provision that basically lets banks gamble with your money and put you on the hook for it. Look it up. We'll have a link. But basically, it used to be that banks you had investments and then you had people's savings and they were completely different and you couldn't mingle them. Well, now they can. and then came Dodd-Frank, changed some things. Well, in this new bill, they basically got away with that, and
so they can invest with your money, and when your bank goes bankrupt, guess what happens? Bailout, bailout!
You are on the hook for them gambling again. So let that sink in for a little bit. But I really, that hit me, I think, harder than the debt. Because the debt, it's just, like you said, our system's dependent on debt. So it kind of is what it is for now. But the banks going in like that and putting the taxpayers on the hook again for their gambling, I think is just outrageous. That is just ridiculous. And Congress didn't have the spine to stand up to them. So, just a thought for the day.
They don't want to stand up to them because who's giving them the freaking money? Just saying.
So Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas to you all.
Here's my little tree. It's 2 feet tall. I love it. It's great. Merry Christmas.
And a Happy New Year. We'll probably make another video before that happens anyway, but alright, so that's all I've got.
Yeah, that's all I got. It is what it is, man.
Alright, see you next time. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Thanks for tuning in.